noticed or isn't working for you. Some of these techniques you might need some alternate hand position from what I do. I'm not sure if I told you guys this, but I have a woman who's taken all my sculpture classes. She really wanted to try the wheel. She has severe arthritis. All the hand positions that I show regular for you guys wouldn't work for her, so we discussed. We sat down, worked for a couple times with her, and so we discussed how her hand does and doesn't work. We came up with hand positions that worked for her. By the end of the semester, she was actually probably one of the most productive students in the group. So we can overcome any kind of difficulty. Oh, how about this? Okay, so got that down. Oops, got my hand wet too early. Okay, so I'm gonna forego the patting stage, but you could pat down here. I'm gonna just kind of get this wet. This hand anchored through the middle, in and forward. A little bit of pressure down so we get it on here well. Okay. The two hands are opposite each other like this, not here. It's best if you can to pull from the two opposing sides. Now, one thing when I was working with somebody last night, we were talking about how to get this cone started. And so first thing, we want to make sure this isn't a high dome, yeah? Push this in and shape it up into a dome. This hand is supporting and pushing in at the base. This hand is kind of guiding the clay upwards. Okay, when you go to do your first lift, you guys remember these pinky bones I was mentioning before? To get them to work, you actually kind of have to pull your pinkies back a little bit so that they stick out. So my pinkies are sort of pulled out so that the bone will set in there. Before you do your first lift here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in with my pinky first from both sides, and you're going to see a narrow groove form here. Then I'm going to slowly roll my palm in, and as you go from here to back here, the point of contact becomes wider. So as you roll the palm into there and kind of push from underneath, it makes this trough get bigger. So watch, my pinky bone makes it like that. Now as I roll my palm underneath it, you see how it lifts up more? Because this is a bigger shape, so getting that under there starts the lift. Now I'm doing that with one hand, with it wide open so you can see, but if we do this all in one motion, we press in with our pinkies on both sides, and then roll our palms in underneath, it creates this ridge that we can then squeeze from underneath. I'm going to use 3 points of pressure, here, here, and here. As I squeeze underneath, the clay will start to climb. And so I'm carrying up, I'm squeezing, I'm pulling up, but at the same time, I'm guiding in, I'm kind of compressing the clay, so I'm shaping it into a cone as I'm carrying that ridge of clay upwards. So that eventually we get to a nice, tall, narrow cone. All right, what hand do we press down with if we're right-handed? Left one, yeah. So right hand is going to hold the clay, left hand fold it over, up on top. So notice my elbow is kind of out, but my chicken muscles are pulling in. Okay, going down. As you push down, if you're finding it wobbling all over the place, try slow down the speed that you're pushing down. Keep the wheel at the same speed, but slow down how fast you're pushing the clay in. When you get about here, and this is starting to flare up, but as you get about here, this is when the clay, you usually go, oh, okay, it stopped. Like you will feel the resistance and you go, oh, it stopped. And so then you usually want to push your hand around. Don't stop there. Keep this hand as you're shaping and push a little bit more down and through the middle. And use the sides of your hands to sort of keep it in a dome. But compress it that last little bit, and that'll really compact the clay and get it more ready. Okay, coning up again, so you're going to bring this to a point, press in to sort of steady it out. Okay, and you steady your hand. Here, so remember, if the clay is doing this and you grab onto it, it's just going to keep throwing you around. What you got to do is instead put your hand in here, press into the clay, and then steady it. And then the clay will change. Okay. Scoop from underneath, roll your palms under it, guide the clay up. Okay, brought that up. Now, right hand's holding, left hand is pushing back down. Well, I'm dangerous today, huh? Slip everywhere. these two guys first, pushing opposite each other, palms underneath, and then squeezing the hands together so that I'm slowly compressing and guiding that roll of clay or that swell of clay up the surface. Okay? If you finish your cone and it's all wacky like this, steady your hand against it, even if you tip it, and then gradually release your pressure. It goes back to center. Okay, one more time down. Down and in, right through the center. I'm gonna leave kind of a slightly wider shape. I'm gonna clear away the clay at the base here with my fingertip. So if you kind of hook your fingers and gradually sink in and then stop at the edge, you can clean up the base so it's real good and level. What happens sometimes, you get some clay at the bottom here that's uneven, and so you have like this speed bump going by. So when you're trying to push your hand on the clay and hold it steady, it's going dudum, 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 every time it goes around, right? So if you have that happening, you're not going to be able to center. So that's where you need to clear a little bit away from the base. You can use your fingertips, or I don't have square back rib. Yeah, or you can use your rib. Clean that away. Sorry, real groggy clay. And then I'm gonna just reseal this at the base with a little water to make sure it doesn't peel off. Okay, ready to open? All right. Left hand against the clay. What's this one going to be doing now? What's that? Yeah, guiding. This is sort of our support. This guy is just sort of riding on the surface of the clay, and he's going to be the brace for my right thumb. So get the clay good and wet. So this guy is just here to provide support so the thumb can stay in the middle. Now push down and pull out just a tiny bit, create a starting well. Keep it good in center. And now one more time. Left thumb is supporting, right thumb is cutting down in, and trying to keep a nice straight line. And we're going down till we're about this deep, so that there's a nice thickness of clay on the floor for the bottom of the pot. Alright, so we're now in the middle of the opening stage. The next thing I'm going to do is make the floor. When you make the floor, left hand is still riding on the side here as a support. Right hand, I'm gonna switch, actually probably end up like this, where I take the ring finger and put it behind the pointer and the middle finger. So press in slightly onto the base, and then begin pulling straight towards your belly button. Straight across the floor, until again you feel like it's about finger thick, maybe big finger thick at the base here. Let's see, that's actually about thumb thick. So what we don't want is, when we start doing our pulls, we don't want this part to be so much thicker than down here. If this gets real thin down here, when you try and pull on the clay to bring it up in the wall, the lower part of the wall being real thin will just buckle under the pressure and the torque. So the first pull that we do right now, when we do the little crab claw pull, the first one should just take us from the thickness that we have at the base here. We want to taper and even out so that the wall goes from slightly thicker to slightly thinner all the way up. So I'm going to squeeze in with my thumb and match the pressure from the outside slightly. Let the clay begin to rise, and then slowly bring the two hands together right up the wall, slightly in and over center. Remember, as you pull up, don't lean back, go up and in slightly so it stays this way. Okay, so far so good? Questions or anything? Still following, making sense? Does it make more sense now seeing it after trying a bunch of times? Okay, so hopefully these things, reiterating them will make them stick a little better or make them useful. Okay, so I just reflattened my floor. I'll do that twice to compress it. Way to avoid cracks later. So reflattening and compressing the floor. Make sure the wall is at a nice 90 degree at the bottom. We don't want a real round corner like this. We want it to be sharper like that. Okay, if you can still reach over, make sure your walls are tilted inwards. If you can still reach over with one hand, you're going to reach over. I'm going to use my thumb, and at the base, I'm going to create a groove. I'm doing this with my hands open so you can see this. Okay, I'm going to put my hand here. Now remember, don't put your hand this way, because your fingers are going into the flow of the clay and they're going to catch and dig. So So either keep them straight up and down or tilt slightly this way so that the clay is flowing out of your fingertips that way, the smooth way. If you go this way, you're going to catch and tear your fingers. So slight tilt if you need it, otherwise straight up and down. Pinch in at the base. You see that little groove forming. My thumb is doing that. It's pushing in and then it's guiding the clay up. Because when you first begin, your fingers on the inside are real high up on the floor, and your thumb is all the way down on the wheel head. So there's a difference of that much. What we want, you see how, does that make sense how that's really different? So what we need to do is we press in from our thumb real low and get the clay started inwards. And then we guide it up slightly until our two fingers, there's no pressure from the inside, until our thumb is up and level with our fingertips. Then we can pinch in and carry that whole roll. So left hand, bracing, locked in. My thumb brought that ring up, and now the two fingers have met up, so I can continue that pull. I'm going to come up, 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 and in slightly as I go. I'm actually flaring out a little bit here. Whoops. Okay, you get to the top, gradually release, leave the rim just slightly thicker. All right. Okay, any questions on any of that still? Okay. For this one, I can't reach over the wall anymore. So if you find yourself in the predicament, for some of you with smaller hands, it only needs to be about that tall and you can't really comfortably reach. You need to switch to your two-hand position. So with this one, bend your knuckle. This is going to go on the outside. And this hand, I tuck my thumb right where the fold of my thumb closing sits here. So that when I reach over, we're straight up and down. Remember last time I made you guys do this? It's real uncomfortable. So you're straight up and down. But right now, I need to get my outer knuckle brought up to the level of my finger on the inside. So I'm going to carry that little coil up. I'm going to wet the wall of this before I do any more. I'm going to wet this, and I'm also going to collar it in a little bit. So remember I was saying last time, if you want to collar in, you encircle the pot that way or this way. And if you start from low down, you pinch in a little bit, and you slowly, gently bring it up, and that narrows in the pot overall. Now it's going to be better. Press in at the base, bring that roll of clay up. Now my fingers are matched, and now I can slowly come up together. So notice how slowly I'm going up the wall. This is the slowest elevator you've ever ridden in with the worst song you've ever heard playing. Get to the top, I'm going to steady out. I'm releasing my pressure right about here, so you see the rim being slightly thicker. Gradually release. Okay. Sponge the rim. Okay. Let's say we decide this is finished. From here, at this point, like if you're throwing bases or something, you would then go and shape out the walls, bring in the neck, whatever it is you wanted to do with it. For us, we're doing cylinders and learning process right now, getting our clay. Our whole goal with this exercise over and over is getting real good at the process of throwing. But what I want it to be is that when you guys wedge up a 2 or 3 pound ball of clay, when you throw it, the goal is to use all of that 2 or 3 pounds in the pot. We don't want to have a ton of extra down here that we have to cut away. Sometimes I'll have people say, I'm going to throw big now. They'll put 8 pounds of clay on the wheel. And they'll get the same size pot that they did when they were working with 4 pounds. And that means that all that extra 4 pounds, they have to spend half an hour trimming away, and then that clay has to be softened and re-wedged and all that. So we want to take a 3 pound ball and make a 3 pound pot out of it, if that makes sense. So this guy, hopefully when I go and trim it, there's not too much excess. Wooden tool, when we go to finish, the wooden tool, remember hold it backwards so that the sharp side is up. You're going to cut with this part. When you bring the tool here to about 3 o'clock or maybe about 3:30, when you bring the tool here, the side of the tool here is parallel to the side of the pot. You see how it looks flat like that. So when you go to do your cut, you set your hand up, chopstick style, your finger bracing it, and now I've got my hand braced against the splash pan. My tool is not going to get tugged out of the way. So you start with a narrow groove and then gradually sink the tool straight down in a straight line. Once once I feel the base, I slide up. Sorry, I say straight down, I have a slight angle, but following a straight line. So you go straight in like this, and then once you hit the metal, don't go outwards. Once you hit the metal, go straight back out that groove, so it leaves a nice clean donut. So we switch to our needle tool, hold this guy flat to the wheel head, slide him underneath, clean the tool, cut through, and unwind. Okay, so our goal is to get where we can throw a couple of these in a row pretty fairly steadily and evenly. And so today you guys will start getting to where you have control over the stages. And if you start getting consistent, we'll start counting your cut throughs. And then so while I'm doing the demos, you guys can throw, and I think Auntie Betty's going to be coming, helping and cutting with you guys. And then she knows just as well as I do when you guys are ready to start doing keeping your cut throughs. And then we'll go for 4 of those, and then we'll start making keepers after that. So the cut through, first thing, let's practice one more thing. Water on the wheel head, cutting off. Okay. Bring the water close. I like to do this sort of one sweep, but I always turn the wheel while I do it too. Pull real tight, sweep through, and release. And then if you need to, you can run a little more water through. The slower you go, the more likely it's going to get caught underneath there. So one good clean sweep, keep the wire tight so it doesn't arch upwards. Okay, if we were keeping, we would, with the metal lifters, pick this guy up and move it. Anybody want to cut it? Okay, so cutting. Straight down through. Lumberjack saw the floor. Cut underneath. And pop that down. Okay. So this is a good thickness for the base. And then you see there's just a very subtle taper in thickness from the very bottom all the way to the top. And the top has an ever so, almost like imperceptible, unless you feel it thickening right there. That's for reinforcing the shape. So your goal is you won't get this tall because you're using smaller amounts of clay. If you do, bravo. But the goal is a good, clean, even wall coming up, a nice flat floor with a good corner in here. Try not to, one of the things I always start off with helping you guys get first is making sure that this is a nice, sharp corner inside there. Because if it's real round, you'll never be able to quite grab the clay. So the flat corner in here, the angle in there, really helps with being able to pinch the clay when you go to do your pull. Okay, you guys got any questions on anything? No? Okay. So you guys get your clay ready. Go